Hey everybody, this is Mad Hatter, and I'm in this storage room on Slackville Forever, which I've been doing some videos from, and I want to actually rebuild this sorter input. Originally, I put it here. It's tight and crowded. I'm going to move it to right here. And I know a number of you have been asking for a tutorial on this, and I'm going to break this into two parts because I'm only building this part today. And then at some point in the future, I'm going to build another set of sorters over here. So I'm going to do this as a block for block in survival so you can see what's going on, but it's also just going to be me playing. So let's see how that goes. Anyway, I will have a link to the Structura lab file in the description. That'll give you the materials list. That'll give you a Structura file that you can follow along with. But I'm not going to be using the Structura file. I'm going to be just building this as I go, so I actually explain everything properly. So how does this work? You grab some items and you put it in this chest, and they get pulled out at around 3 hopper speed on average via these hopper minecarts. The hopper minecarts get shifted around. You can hear the pistons going off. Each time those pistons goes off, it gets about a stack of items going out. Average amount of items through this is around 27,000 items an hour, which is crazy fast. This is actually done running now, and those 2 stacks are already in their home as soon as that minecart goes that way. Like I said, we're going to be building the input for this, and then in the next episode, we'll be building the actual item categorizers. So this is going to take the items and turn them into 1 stack per minecart with 1 spot left open. So let's get into it. So first thing, this is a trap chest. If I break it, underneath, there's an activator rail. It does not matter which way this one's facing. And actually, this section of the build is not directional. That section up there is very directional. So now we need a hopper minecart or 2. So now we're back up top, and we're going to put a hopper minecart on an activator rail underneath of this trap chest. And what that's going to do is allow you to close the chest, and then the items go down into the hopper minecart only when the chest closes, which is important for this sorter because there's a bug where the items can get eaten if you don't do that. Next, we need a detector rail. And I'm going to do these circuits in colored wool. That way you can follow along. So we're going to use blue for the detection circuit. And we're going to come down 2 blocks. And we're going to place a detector rail. If you notice, the detector rail is facing this direction. If we're going to surround this in blocks, so it doesn't really matter which way it's facing, but it is a little bit easier if you have the detector rail facing in line with where you want your minecarts to come out. It just is a little bit easier to do it that way. So I'm going to place blocks in like that. So now that's my little home for my detector rail minecart. So we have an activator rail, detector rail. Next thing we're going to do is put in our slanted output rail. I'm going to do my output in quartz. If you didn't put your detector rail that way, it will snap when you put in these rails. And you do want it to go just like that. You're going to want to leave this rail in to get started because we're going to place rails this way. And it is 4 rails. Just like that. And we want to make sure that the rails are oriented like this. It should be a zigzag down and then a straight line that way. If they are not tilted like this when you actually build yours, it's not going to work. You need it tilted up, and you need it to go across like that and like that. That is all of the rails that we're going to use in this section of the build. So you can start putting them away. I'm going to put a dump chest down here for me to use, and at the end we're going to run it through the sorter, so don't stress about it too much. Just so this repeater gets buried, so I always put it in around this time. I set it on full ticks. It needs to be on full ticks to allow for the timing to be perfect, but this one gets buried. It's where we had the rail before, and often when I break stuff, I've got to come back and update that one. So just remember, this one goes next to this blue block and is on 4 ticks. So looking at this, down here, we're going to put in our primary timing circuit. This circuit is actually what controls the amount of items going into. This is actually the circuit that controls the number of items that flow through the minecarts. So if you want to adjust the number of items in the minecart, you would adjust this circuit. The reason I set it to this is because you get around 32 items. 32 I think is ideal, but I have not completely tested every item count. So 32 is kind of ideal because it balances doing full stack speed with the speed of doing a huge number of single items. Because remember, this only will sort one single items as fast as a minecart gets clocked through. So you don't want this to be too slow, but also you do not want it to ever completely fill the minecart. Now, what we're going to put in is the circuit that kicks this minecart out. So when there's a minecart sitting there, it's got to be ejected. This is the ejection circuit. For this, it's a monostable circuit. We're going to put in like that, like that, like that. And we're going to put it in this purple wool. So magenta wool is our main timer. Purple wool is our keep alive circuit. For this to work, you're going to want 3 ticks and 1 tick. This is going to give you the proper delay to let your minecarts escape. And then we're going to put a piece of wool there and a torch on top. Now we're going to need a couple of sticky pistons. On the side of this torch, you're going to place a sticky piston, and it's going to kind of hit you in the face. And then on the top of this torch, if I jump a couple times and push them in the wrong spots, you're going to have one that faces that way. I'm going to break these 2 sticky pistons out. Now on the face of this piston, you're going to put a fence. And then now that you have that fence in, you're going to push an observer like that. Now this circuit is going to let out one minecart and then trigger the next minecart to come along. So now that we have that piston in, we're going to put a block there. And then we're going to put glass just so we can see what's going on. All the way down to here. And we're going to put a piece of wool there. This block does not matter. It's just because I have a redstone signal there. And I'm trying not to tear this apart until after I get everything working, because this system still works. And I want to make sure everything's good before I move on. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put a dispenser in. Put the dispenser right there. And then we're going to put in 3 hoppers. 1, 2, 3. So now the way this is going to work is whenever the clock runs out, this piston's going to move back, letting that minecart out, and then move forward, asking for another minecart to be dispensed. It'll then end up in the same spot, and we'll repeat the cycle. The next thing that we need is actually for this to go up like that and down like that, and we'll put in 2 pieces of redstone. The reason that we have these 2 pieces of redstone is for us to actually re-trigger that clock. So you see, actually I had this around the wrong way around when I originally put it in, so I'm going to put it back. And I'm going to put this repeater in on 4 ticks, and you can see the loop that's going to happen. This powers this clock, or this decay clock, which powers this monostable, which moves that observer, which powers this, and we just do a loop. But now we need a way to kick that loop off. The way we kick that loop off is actually with another startup circuit. So this startup circuit is going to power this line right here, and it's going to use some light gray doesn't have to be light gray, but it's going to use a repeater right here on default. So this circuit is now going to need to be powered when this minecart is getting items, but only just when it starts getting items. So we're going to put a comparator in to measure that. And then we're going to put a block there. And we're going to set it up just like this. And there's items in there right now. I'm going to pull those items out. We're going to put 2 repeaters in. This one on 2 ticks. Give it a dust. And then we're going to put another repeater right here. And leave that on default. And then we're going to put 1 block in here. So now, this is a falling edge monostable. When an item goes in here, this will turn off and it'll send a pulse down. Send a pulse down to here, which will power that block, which will power that repeater, which will power this clock, and it'll just go around in a loop. Now, this would work just fine, but I want to not waste the startup time. So I added this little circuit in here to let it start a little bit faster. Really, this is not strictly necessary, but it saves you about half a second every time you use the sorter. And then I put a double chest here to split it out. So the last thing we have to add is our turn off circuit. The turn off circuit, you put a piece of glass here and 2 pieces of redstone dust in. What that is going to do is it's going to allow this piston to continue on the last clock cycle, but it will not allow this observer to move. That's going to allow the minecart to escape, and it's going to allow the clock to stop being fed back. So now I have this loaded up with shovels, and I have this with some minecarts in it, and we can do a test run. The way that we're going to do a test run is we're going to come back over here, we're going to pillar up, and then we're going to put a stack of some item in here. Doesn't matter what it is, we'll just put this green wool in. We're going to fall down, we're going to check. That now triggered off just in time, and that triggered off, and then the clock stopped, which is exactly what we want. So now I can just route this rail however is best to get to the sorter that I'm going to build. In my case, I'm just going to disconnect this one that I have over there, and I'm going to reconnect it to the one that I just built, and that will allow me to actually use the sorter that I already had built. Now, you probably are not going to already have a sorter built, so you're going to have to wait for the next video or build off of the structure file that is in the description. This is Mad Hatter, and I hope you enjoyed. I will be doing the second part of this video, but it does take a lot of time to edit, so let's put this one out and then see when I get that one out in the future. Anyway, thanks. Bye. Well, I promised I would actually use this to sort out all of the items. I'm going to put my normal everyday carry stuff in this chest, and we're going to sort using the sorter so you can see how fast this goes. This may be sped up, or this might just be bonus footage at the end for those of you who stick around. So let's see how this does. So now you should have a timer in the upper right hand corner. We're going to fill this double chest up a little bit. And then as soon as I close, I should start the live split. I'm gonna grab my carrots because I'm hungry. Let's grab this. That's an everyday carry item. We'll put our golden carrots back. I'm just going to take a peek into this. If I open the chest, it'll interrupt Once these get a little bit backed up, I'm going to put more items in. I think it's backed up now. Let's put more items in, and I'm using an auto clicker to put them in quickly. I know you won't have that for most people. But now, we just need to let it go. And we can take a look up here. You can see those minecarts are just bouncing around back and forth, looking for their home. Some of these items I don't have in here. That's why I'm expanding the categorizer. So they're going to come over here and maybe go straight into overflow, but who knows? Oh, that was everyday carry. That was probably my... Oh, that was these chests. Still sorting like mad. Let's see, where are we at? At 2 minutes, and we'll check to see how close it is to done. And that's 2 minutes. And we have gotten a good chunk of this sorted. I'm going to grab my gear back. I think this is going to be about 7 minutes of sorting. So at 3 minutes, we've got another 9 stacks sorted. And this is where things become less efficient when you only have 1 or 2 of each item. It takes a little bit longer to go through them. That's why I said I usually like to have it on 32 ticks because... or 32 items in the minecart, because then it's not as wasteful. And yeah, there's a lot of things where I just have 1 or 2 items, which is kind of slowing us down. Let's grab some quartz and repair the floor while it's running. We're getting down there. Check at 5 minutes and see how close we are. Just a couple of stacks left. It's probably going to be done before 6 minutes. Okay, we're going to look in there again. Get into the last few items. We'll check at 6 minutes and see where we're at. That's empty. We just got a couple more left to do. I'm watching this. As soon as that comparator light goes out, we know that it's on the last item. And once that's gone, I'm going to stop the clock. 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I was not too far off on the 7 minutes to sort that chest. That was just a guess and nailed it. As you can tell, I use this sorter quite a bit. I love it. Anyway, I'm out for real this time. Bye!